Hey YouTube, this is Mark at Bill of Rights. I'm getting ready to change the rotors and pads on a 2002 Ford Explorer Sport Trac two-wheel drive. Now I had difficulty finding this on the internet, so I'm going to do this video to post on the internet so that somebody else may have better access to this particular truck, rotors and pads. Alright, what you see here is the rotor and hub assembly. It's not just a rotor that you pop off your hub. It is the hub itself also, and it also has your rear and front bearings in it. And there's a seal that holds the bearings in, which I've bought here. This hub cost right about $54 on it for each. That's $108 total for both sides, but $54 each. This was $6.50. The pads I got are the Duralast Gold. They were $39.99 for the pair. And I went ahead and bought a couple of these grease for the bearings to pack the bearings with. So you'll need a couple of those. Now you'll need a couple of each of these. I've already done the other side, and I'm getting ready to show you this side since I've already done the first side. Let's get started. And just loosen these nuts. You're also going to need to pop this little cap off. Okay, next you have a cotter pin that will need to be removed. And there's a little cap over the nut. Take that off, that little cap. Now, clean some of this grease off. And you'll take your crescent wrench, and that is usually not very tight. There. Now we'll jack it up and take the wheel off. Now that we've got our rotor turned out where we can work on it, we're going to remove these two screws right here where these rubber pieces are. There's just two screws here, and we'll remove them with a 1/2-inch wrench. And just pull them out and set them aside. Now we're going to pull the caliper up and off. Now what you'll want to do with this caliper is find a way to get it out of the way, and I'm going to take it up here. I'm going to move it up here on above the wheel, and I'm going to tie it off. Okay, that'll keep it out of the way. Okay, now we're going to remove this bolt and this bolt here. These two bolts here hold the part that holds the shoes in. Let's get those off. To get these two bolts out, you'll want to use a breakover wrench and a number 15 metric socket. Okay. You can just take these, just pop these old pads off. Just pull this part off. Now we're just going to remove what you have here is a washer that holds that bearing in, and then you got the washer there with it. We're going to set those aside for now. Now the hub should just come off. I think my video might have crapped out on me for a minute there when I was installing that. I'm not sure, I'll have to go back and look, but basically what I did was take my rear bearing, kind of wiped some of the old dirty grease off of it, liberally greased around it, and went ahead and set it in here. And then I put the ring that holds it in, small end first, and tapped it inside of there. So I've got my rear bearing sealed in here now and ready to go back on the truck. Okay, while I was videoing this, apparently I didn't have some of the camera on. I was fumbling with that camera half the time while I was doing this video, so apparently some of the time it didn't have the, I wasn't in record. So I'm going to kind of explain where it went from when I had the rear bearing seated in with the hub laying down on the ground, and then all of a sudden it jumps to the wheel. Or I've already put the hub back on and already seated in the front bearing. All that happened there that you missed was I just slid just picked it up, slid it. Now I did clean the back side and front side of the where the brake shoes hit the rotor. I cleaned them off so that it wouldn't have any grease on them for when we put the pads on later. And then I just slid it on, took and cleaned the front bearing up a little bit, got some of that old grease off of it, and then put in all new clean grease and just seated it in and put the washer on after that holds it in, and then put the nut on and added a bunch more grease around that. Right after packing more grease in here, we'll put our little nut sleeve back on, reinstall our cotter pin. Pop our cap back on. Now we'll reinstall this guy. We'll double check and make sure our surface is grease free. Okay, now we can start putting on the pads. Okay, now that you got your pads back on your new rotor, you want to take, I've got this brake and caliper grease that I always wipe down the back side of these pads with. Get your pads wiped down good. Get your caliper out of jail. Now, one thing I like to do, these calipers, there's different ways of getting these pistons back in, but I just use a C-clamp. Okay, what you're going to want to do before you start screwing in those clamps is take the lid off of your brake fluid reservoir and keep an eye on that, because you may need to put a rag in there and start sucking some of it off in case you've been adding fluid on low brake pads. So some of that fluid may have to come out, and you don't want it to come out and go all the way down inside your engine. I'll be monitoring that as I do these C-clamps. You want to take these all the way till they bottom out. Alright. Now you just go ahead and put that back on. Yeah. All right. So now we've got the caliper all back on. We got the new hub with rotor on, and it's all sealed up, and we're ready to put the wheel back on. But this thing could be used for an anchor.